Well, at about 10 to 5, roughly, give or take a couple of minutes, New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters emerged from an all-day meeting at Parliament with his board and caucus and told waiting media they have mainly completed their considerations, but without agreement yet on which party they will go with. Let's listen to the beginning of a statement that Winston Peters made to the media.
We've spent a couple of days on very comprehensive discussions and preparations for the party to make a final decision. We've got a lot of work done. The board's engagement in terms of that work is complete. We've got things to finish off as urgently as we can, sorting out differences of calculations and opinions and trying to make sure we've got, with both sides, a clear understanding so that if we do finalise it, we will know that we've already got the agreement rather than having to go away and write it again. That being the case, the board is starting to wind its way home, and we're going to press on and try and bring the matter to finality as fast as we possibly can.
Winston Peters speaking just before 5 o'clock. Differences of calculations and opinions. Jane Patterson, our political editor, who's joining us live from the gallery office. Hi, Jane. What is happening here or not happening? What are the sticking points, do you think?
Well, I think if you listen to Winston Peters' statement there, he talked about calculations and some of the finer detail around the policy proposals that both National and Labour have delivered to New Zealand First and that the board and the caucus have been considering for the last 2 days. They went into talks at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and then the same today. They've spent all day, 2 days, looking at these. So he did say that they were mainly through their considerations, so they've got the bulk of the work done, but obviously still some concern about the substance of those policy arrangements. And as you heard there, Mr Peters saying they don't want to do a deal with either National or Labour and then get into government and there is disagreement about policy or the amount of money, for example, that has been assigned to these policies. He did say that the board is going home now. The caucus will continue to nail out or sort out these final details, and then he will communicate with the board via phone or online once the caucus has done that to finally reach a consensus.
Is there a sense, so they are going back to the parties by the sound of things and saying, right, we need some clarification around the amount of money available for the sort of policies that are concessions to New Zealand First. That is an inevitable part of the negotiating process. But did you think there was a subtext that there is disagreement within the caucus and the board about which way they should go, or was Winston Peters not telling us that?
He was asked that whether this had been held up by divisions within the board or potentially the caucus about the direction that either he wanted to go or the majority of that meeting wanted to go. He said it was still all down to policy. So to be fair, until you have that policy agreement absolutely as you want it and watertight, I don't think New Zealand First is in a position to make that final decision. But of course we don't know what went on in that meeting. I would absolutely expect there to be some disagreement back and forth about National and Labour and the merits of taking on both proposals. Now, he also said too that he was not now committing to the end of the week, so he is giving himself plenty of time to finish this and give it the time that he needs. Now, of course, when New Zealand First makes a decision, and we don't know whether he would announce which way he would go before National or Labour and the Greens potentially would ratify. We don't know if he'll come out and announce his favoured option or whether he notifies National or Labour and then their Executive Council and Board have to then sign off for those parties. So once the New Zealand First process finishes, we still have some way to go for those other parties to do their thing. So signalling that this may not be done and dusted even this week.
So, in fact, as it stands now, and I guess problematically, Winston Peters did hint, in fact, he did explicitly say that there would be a decision by last Thursday. Now, older and wiser by almost a week, he is saying there is no time frame at all, is he?
That's right. And of course, we're past the first deadline of Thursday the 12th, the return of the writs, which was last week. Yep. Then he said on Friday that there would be a decision by the end of the week. He didn't necessarily say there would be an announcement by the end of the week, but really keeping that open. And you know, Labour's Jacinda Ardern came out today saying it'll take the time that it takes. It's actually better to take a bit more time now than get an agreement that is going to collapse a government or cause major issues once that deal is signed, because they cannot go back and renegotiate these provisions. So he's giving himself room. But as I said, there may be friction within the caucus about the policy that they're heading in, although he did say today that ministerial positions and the governing arrangements, i.e. coalition, confidence and supply or an abstention deal, have still not been discussed. They are still on policy. Yeah, still lots of work to be done. Jane Patterson, our political editor, joining us live from our gallery office with the latest, such as it is. Winston Peters did speak at length to reporters outside when he left the meeting with his board and caucus. We played his formal statement, which was basically all he wanted to say, but he was pressed on a couple of things. Didn't say much more, but we will listen to that audio a bit later.